Welcome to our first Q&A. We wanted to bring you a closer look behind the scenes at what we do at Radix. There's a lot that we know that we don't fit into our weekly posts and social media. So my name's Mike, I'm one of the co-founders of Radix, and what we thought we'd start off a monthly Q&A session where you can ask us anything and we'll give you insight into what we're doing, how we're doing it and why we're doing it, and a chance for you guys to just ask us any question that you like. So in our first month, we thought we'd kick off with a bunch of questions that were asked on social. I'll read them out and then we'll go through a few updates that we have here behind the scenes. So first we have Katie from Instagram. I work at the hospital and Radix has been my number one lunch option for a while now. A lot of friends at work don't understand why I would eat food out of a bag. What do you normally say to this response? Well, it's been a pretty good, it's a question that we get asked a lot at Radix. Eating out of a bag is perhaps a little unusual and our packaging is pretty distinctive. But for me, the reason why I would choose to eat a Radix product would be it helps me get the nutrition I want, it helps save me time, it helps simplify my day and allow me to focus more on what's important to me, and I know that I'm getting a really high quality meal and all of the nutrients my body needs. So I think, you know, when we started 7 or 8 years ago, it was perhaps more unusual, and obviously with more and more people becoming aware of it, it's more understood and more recognised. But for me, it's just about getting the nutrition I need as simply and as quickly as possible. So you can always point them towards our website or this video if you want them to learn more. Ryan from Instagram, I eat an Expedition 800 meal every day after work as I'm too tired to cook. I buy Radix as there are no dishes to do afterwards. So the question is, would I put on weight after eating such a high calorie Radix meal, as after work I'm just relaxing at home and I know they're designed for a high intensity exercise session? So probably not. It would depend on how much energy you'd had during the day. But you know, if you could count calories, you could look at your macro split and to see if it put you in an excess or not. But if you wanted to look at it really simply, if you're that hungry and a Radix meal gets you to a point in your satiety where you feel that you're not over full or anything else, then I'd say that you're fine to do that. 800 calories in of itself is not a lot. So it tends to look a little bit higher than normal perhaps on our calorie range. But one 800 calorie meal is not that significant. And indeed, the sort of people that we work with who use our 800 calorie products would typically have that in an eating routine where they're eating a lot of them a day. So a mountaineer or an elite endurance athlete would be up in the sort of 3,000 to 6,000 calories a day bracket, maybe 4,000 to 6,000 a day. So one meal becomes a little less important and the overall eating strategy is more so. But a simple answer to your question would be no. An 800 calorie meal, if you feel that you need it and you feel good afterwards, would be totally fine. It's a little bit interesting though, something that we don't communicate perhaps that well at the moment. Our 800 calorie formulation is actually quite specific in what we've done to achieve an 800 calorie meal. In a meal size that is as small as we can make it, because when someone gets into a really high energy expenditure situation, you run into a limitation where they can't take too much physical food volume in a given day or an activity level. So when we formulate an 800 meal, we reduce some of the vegetable content that we would say would help boost a person's micronutrient intake during the day. We tend to drop a little of that to mean that the meal is smaller and faster to digest. So if you feel you needed a lot of calories after work, my advice, or one thing that you could advise, would be to perhaps eat a little bit more during the day. And in doing that, maybe stepping down into our 600 range would mean that you could get a high vegetable serving across your day, probably lift your micronutrient intake and just stabilize or flatten out your energy intake during the day. But of course it's up to you, but that perhaps in the future we can talk a bit more about the specifics of the range. AJ from Instagram just found Radix at his local store in NSW, Australia. I was blown away with your meals, and I got a taste test, and we're stocking up prior to doing an overland later this year. What else is in the works regarding breakfast, desserts and meals? So we know we've had a lot of questions around this, and the answer is that we've got a lot on our development roadmap coming up for the rest of this year. So breakfast, we'll be adding some additional ranges. We're looking at a couple of additional meals in that. We're looking at some savoury breakfast. We'd like to get a product out in the we'd like to get a breakfast product that aligned with our keto or very low carbohydrate macro design criteria. So that will be hopefully coming out by the end of this year. Desserts we'll be working on this year. That'll be an interesting one. That's actually linked a little bit more towards our background and purpose as a nutrition company, more so than it is for the outdoor market or consumer group, where they're looking for something sweet at the end of a long day. So what we see with people, particularly athletes, my background is that at night time maybe you're trying to hit a macro goal, typically around protein, typically around lower carbohydrates, but you want something sweeter. We're going to come out with a dessert that will fit within that space. That would also work really well for someone in the outdoors. That's actually an area at the moment where our expedition breakfasts or typically would be used by people outdoors as a sweeter product to end their day. We're also coming out with a snack range, which I can't say too much about at the moment, but would do really well in that space. And the whole meal range, we're aiming to go through a version 7 upgrade by the end of the year, which will be pretty significant. What's actually going to happen behind the scenes with some of the works that we're doing this year is that we're just going to go through a modification and upgrade to the architecture that sits behind the range. As we scale up, our manufacturing and sales are increasing rather a lot. And behind the scenes, we're just getting ready to go through a tweak that will see us be able to hit far more aggressive micronutrient design targets. So not so much macros such as protein, carbohydrate and fat, but as we're starting to shift more of our focus now from achieving, say, an RDI to an optimized dietary intake, we see that put a little bit more pressure on the way in which Radix has the ability to achieve micronutrient targets. So that will be version 7 for us, and also that will be our subtle shifts throughout our product range that enable us to go from an NZ and an AU market to being able to achieve products that are able for global export or eligible for global export. So that will be quite a big shift behind the scenes, and it will come across as some minor tweaks to the product range hopefully by the end of this year. But it's going to be quite a lot of work on our side, and that's something actually that would be really great to be able to share with more of you in these videos. And that sort of technical information we can't really get out through a lot of our normal content channels, and hence part of the reason for doing more videos. But please feel free to ask more along those guidelines or direction, and we'll be doing a lot more in that space regardless anyway. Luke from Instagram, what are your plans for the keto range moving forwards? So that's an awesome question. That ties back into what we're doing in version 7. So the keto range that we came out with initially, when we designed that, we didn't want to just specifically target a really low net carbohydrate content, because someone can already achieve that through very many other ways. What we wanted to achieve is the lowest net carbohydrate score while maintaining the sort of nutritional density and micronutrient quantities that really we thought would help us play a meaningful role in a person achieving a healthy diet. So keto is an interesting one for us, because we didn't yet have the ability to get an incredibly low carbohydrate content without sacrificing our nutrient density and our micronutrient content. But as we restructure now in some of the block work or architecture behind how we design a product, what we're seeing is that we're soon going to be able to achieve a 30% reduction or thereabouts in our net carbohydrate score. So that would see a 600 calorie meal that's around 14 grams net carbohydrate going down to about a 9, and a 400 kcal meal going from an 11 to a 7 gram net carbohydrate range. And we may even be able to get it lower than that in our next round of iteration as well. But we're probably halfway towards where we'd like to get that range. It's kind of important to note we could get it lower. We could easily get it down into an incredibly low net carbohydrate score, but it would be with a lot of damage to the nutrient composition of our meals. So we're not prepared to compromise on that too much, hence why we've not come out with something really low. I'll save more of the details behind that for the future. Annabelle from Instagram, I saw you recently released a smoothie for recovery. Are you going to be developing more smoothies moving forwards? Yep. We've got 5 smoothies or drink products very soon to be launched. We've got 4 more in our standard recovery range, and we have our first keto recovery shake coming out. What we did initially with this product when we launched this at the beginning of the year, this was intended as a pathfinder ahead of us bringing more smoothies to market. So a lot of you know that these products are pretty different from anything else that's on the market at the moment. So we really targeted nutrient density and the overall micronutrient composition tailored towards supporting athletic recovery in every way that we could see possible. We achieved a lot of that, but it was pretty hard to set up our supply chain, our design and our manufacturing to come out with a product that we wanted. And little things around that are, this is quite a large product. And it has to be large because we have to get a lot of the ingredients into it that bring those micronutrients, hence why we've termed it a smoothie and not just a typical shake. So this product is around 70 grams of powder. A lot of other protein shakes on the market would be in the sort of 30 gram mark. So we just wanted to get one product to market to test the concept, test our manufacturing capabilities, design capabilities. And what we've gone through in the background is a minor revision to our packaging, a minor revision across our manufacturing capabilities. We've tweaked some of our design or key design elements behind how we make the products, and we've enabled that across 4 new flavors coming out, or 4 new products. So it's a couple of flavors, some will be plant-based and a couple will be containing what we believe to be the highest quality whey protein isolate on the market from Fonterra. In addition to that, we've got one keto smoothie coming out, which will be the first one in that group as well. So they should only be about 4 weeks away now. But it's a good question, and there's quite a lot to come in that market. We have one more product, which we think to be probably the most significant product for us in the drink space, which we'll be able to share a little bit more with you guys soon. Hazel from Facebook, are you going to offer smoothies and packaging we can use to mix it and drink from? So I think from that, you're asking, would we have a product that you could add water to the packaging itself, shake up and drink out of? Maybe. So we see that as being a lot of packaging. Packaging something we don't terribly like, but is necessary for us and for the food industry. We see a product in that space specific to certain markets. So we see that for our endurance community outside, or the outdoor endurance community. That would include multi-sport, military, short-handed sailing, and extreme adventure sports. We don't really want to create a product in the everyday space with that type of market unless we can achieve it in a few distinct ways, but that would be quite a lot of plastic. So we're going to stick with this for our everyday space and recommend a shaker or a blender to make these products. We probably will come out with a product for our customers who are in an area where they don't have a shaker, so they have got a product. But we just want to make sure that we're not using too much packaging on that. Trent from our Facebook development group, I've noticed your ingredients list seem to be growing more complicated. This makes me a bit wary because I prefer to eat real food as close to its natural minimal processed state as possible. I understand that your focus is on nutrition, but does your team consider this sort of thing when developing new products? Absolutely. That's a really good question. So if we could have it our way, we wouldn't include any additives at all. You'll see that typically in the ingredients that Radix manufactures. There's typically no additives of any kind whatsoever. When we go out and we try and find certain functional ingredients, such as maybe our proteins, or maybe select other food ingredients where we don't manufacture the whole thing, they may have an additive in there for, say, enhancing the mixability or dispersion or free-flowing characteristics of that food ingredient. So we try and steer around that as much as we can. It's something I think we can do a little bit better on in the future, but that's when, if we push too hard on that at the start, we can grind our product development to a complete standstill. So in certain instances, we may go with an ingredient that we can get our hands on in the short term that passes a lot of our requirements and our values around what it is. And we may hope to perfect that in the future. We'll never use an ingredient that we're not happy with, and we're super strict on that. But we do have a couple. So a few that we've got tapioca-based maltodextrin and maize starch. So these are free flow agents that are used in a couple of our ingredients. I won't name the ingredients directly in this, because that will perhaps show where we're looking to go in the future a little bit, but we know what that ingredient is, and we know that we're happy with it, and we know that we're happy with where it's come from. One thing that makes it a little bit tricky, or we get a lot of attention for it, is that we believe that our customers, that you should know every single ingredient that goes into one of our products. And a lot of times we declare an ingredient that is far below the minimum legal requirement for declaring an ingredient. And this sets us up for a little bit of flack, which we're happy with to share with you. But what I mean by that is that, we might show that we have an additive in one of our products that another manufacturer wouldn't legally have to declare. So while it's in their product and they may not show it, we would choose to show it in ours, and we're never going to change on that. But we are instead going to find the ways to bring certain ingredients into our product range that are clean label, or indeed that have certain additives that we deem to be okay, that are fully natural, but we'll always declare that with you. So I think we could do a little bit better on that. We've used white rice powder as our binding agent in our meatballs, and the issue's been when you put that on a nutritional label for the right for customers that are aware of what they're looking for, they see it and they assume that we've got a lot of it in the product, or maybe rosemary oil extract, and they see it on the label and it's not something they're asking for and they don't want it, and they call us out on it. But the reality isn't that. We use a few parts per million, and that is the most natural way that we can protect the quality of our meat protein from oxidizing. And again, that's an area we probably don't have to declare that, but we always want to stay up front and be fully transparent about what we're doing. And in those instances, if we can ever find a way to remove that through a better technology, a better process, we would do that, because it's not ideal to have it in there. But in the first instance, we're fully transparent on that. Nick from Instagram, when are we going to see Radix in more Australian stores? So that's happening right now. We've got about 36 Australian retailers at present. We're thinking that will go up pretty significantly by the end of the year. We're growing really fast, particularly in Australia. But Nick, if you thought you had a particular store that we should be in, if you could share that with us on social or write us a message, we can approach that store and get products listed in there. We're growing our retail pretty fast. And what's been amazing is a lot of that's been led from customers just like you who've written to us and asked if we could be in a specific store, or who have approached their store and the store has then got in touch with us, and we can normally set a store up pretty quickly. So yeah, 36 stores, it should be growing really quickly. If you'd like to name a store, please do. Cathy from the USA, when will you be able to ship internationally? So this has been a pretty big milestone for Radix. We've just turning on now our international stores, and throughout the rest of this year we're going to be expanding the amount of products eligible for international sale ahead of our the goal that we've had for years, which is to be a global company based in New Zealand. So the countries that we're targeting initially will be the UK, EU, USA, but amongst that there will be other countries as well. So it's happening right now. It could take us a few months to get it set up properly. But again, if anyone would like to purchase our products overseas, please let us know. We'll do the best that we can. So they've been the questions that you gave us for our first one. If anyone has any more questions, we'd like to make this a key part of Radix in the drive to get more of our story external and to engage closer with you all. But we thought in addition to that we could do a couple of updates from behind the scenes in areas that perhaps customers didn't know to ask us about. So we've covered the smoothies. That's going to be a significant product category for us. We've got 5 new smoothies coming out in the immediate future. We've got a major release in the next couple of months, which we're really excited about, and we'll look forward to bringing in the future. We get a lot of comments about packaging, and we're a part of that community as well. So we have to have packaging. Packaging has to exist. It's not an industry that's perfect. We don't see that we can shy away from it, nor is it something that sort of humanity as a whole can shy away from. And the packaging industry, in my view, needs to be pressed hard now to find solutions that are better for the environment, and we want to be a really active role in doing that. So there's a number of things that we're working on behind the scenes that we'll be sharing with you all as soon as we can. One of them will be, we believe, a world first, which I'd be really excited to share with you all, but it's not something that we can probably share at the moment. As some of you may know, we've always taken packaging pretty seriously. We'll always minimize the amount of packaging we use. We always want to understand that we're using the best packaging, the best film laminates, the best construction that we can. It's something that we've taken seriously in the past, and it's something we'll be doing a better job on going forward. So for some who may not know, a couple of years ago we were the first New Zealand company to win a Australasian Packaging Award in our category. We actually went on to be the first New Zealand company in history to win a Global Packaging Award in that category as well, and that was for packaging that enabled customers to minimise the amount of food waste that they were producing. So as a lot of you may know, consumer food waste is a huge deal globally. Radix manufacturing systems have been set up where they can achieve close to zero food waste, and our packaging is an intrinsic part of that. So the technology or the packaging roadmap that we see and the technology that we believe that we need to implement in order to fulfill what we hope to be our vision for packaging in the future should get us another Global Packaging Award, and it's something we look forward to sharing perhaps by the end of this year, maybe early next year. There's quite a few steps on that roadmap. They encompass labeling, packaging construction, design, laminates, and a few other things as well. We'll also be dropping the oxygen absorber from our packaging and replacing it with another technological solution that will happen in a way that we can still reduce the oxygen content of our packaging, but we no longer have to use an O2 absorber, which will remove packaging, remove a step for our customers to have to go through, and enable us to have a cleaner manufacturing process next door where we can make a high quality product. So there's a bunch that we're doing in that space. Some of you may remember that our meal packaging used to be quite a lot larger. Something that we did last year was to try and right size our packaging as much as possible, which was a really significant redevelopment of our entire meal range and the structure of our products as well. So this is something we've tried pretty hard on for a while, and we're excited to do better as well, and that just comes under our general environmental efforts. The plant-based range is going to go through a really significant expansion by the end of this year. It's something that we really believe in. We see that as awareness comes to the environmental pressures that the food industry puts on the world, and humanity's overall environmental footprint, we think that we can do a really good job of a plant-based product in the future. So we're aware that a lot of people out there and a lot of communities see that a plant-based diet is an imperfect diet, nutritionally speaking. I disagree that it has to be that way, and actually instead I believe we're just looking at a technical challenge that if we work through it, we can get an outstanding product in response to that will enable a customer to lower their environmental footprint, and I think actually maintain a similar or improved nutrient density, because a lot of plant-based ingredients are obviously our source of micronutrients in their natural and most bioavailable form. And just in the protein space we have a challenge to address, and we're really up for that. So that will be a significant change for the rest of our year. Just a couple of updates on Australia. We're working on a method to get faster shipping to Australia, which should be coming online in the next month. That's taken us quite a while to go through the hoops involved in achieving that, and it's also part of our global expansion plan. So that should come through later this month. We also should be getting chicken to Australia, or our products that contain chicken eligible for Australia by the end of the year, hopefully in the next couple of months, 2 or 3 months. More to share in that space. We're a little bit limited by some of the market regulations that shifted in the last couple of years, but chicken should be coming back online and available for Australia in the next 3 months. There's probably not much I can share on this now, but as a part of our content, we'd like to get you deeper behind the scenes in how we make products. So there are a lot of manufacturing improvements that we've been working on that will improve our accuracy, the speed and efficiency in which we can make products, mostly for the purpose of enabling more aggressive nutritional designs and products. Some products at which we want to make, but we don't know yet how to make, and therefore we've had to do some of the engineering work behind the scenes. So I'd like to share a little bit more of that with you in the future, but right now that's been a pretty big focus of ours and continues to be. One of the other adjustments, we're going to shift to a New Zealand sourced olive oil. We think this is going to enable us to get a higher polyphenol content in our oils, and a far higher performing nutritional oil or olive oil. It's taken us a little while to find that, and perhaps our volumes are a little bit of an issue for that, but we're excited to share that with you. So that concludes the end of our first Q&A session. Thank you so much for all your questions, and as always, if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask in our product development group, social media, or perhaps if you wish directly via email, or give us a call. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you next time.